I was wrong. Wrong. Turns out you really don't need to spend a big wad of cash to enjoy portable PC gaming on a laptop. And I have just the laptop to prove it. This is the Gigabyte A16. They have 16 written in Roman letters on the inside in case there's any confusion. And despite looking and feeling like a regular productivity laptop, it most certainly is capable of gaming. Don't believe me? The immutable words gaming burned not just here on the rear exhaust of the device using lengthy spacing in between the letters, but also here on the bottom of the device using normal spacing. And in case you missed those very subtle signs, you open the lid and next to the Roman 16 sign, look, gaming right there. Now let's see how much gaming is there in this gaming laptop. Other than these markings from the caveman era of video games, which still makes me a little itchy and vomitous all over, the design is actually pretty basic, and I love that. It's nice and clean despite that juvenile symbolism. This is actually kind of rare to see, especially with the more affordable variety of gaming laptops, which usually tend to be styled primarily to attract 10-year-olds. An obvious ploy preventing them from going on even a single date till they're 40 years old. It's a population control tactic. Dorks, thou shalt not breed. I say that with affection, of course, being the dorkiest dork myself. Are dorks the same as nerds? Anyway, actually I think even 10-year-olds might cringe looking at those WSD keys, getting them kind of a different transparent keycap. I mean, is it difficult locating the WSD keys normally? At this point, I've probably alienated my younger audiences, but for all of you watching, it would be really awesome if you could subscribe. I'm a tiny channel and I love putting out reviews from a very consumer standpoint. Your support really helps me to keep on going and providing great practical advice on how to get technology right and dating right too. For dorks and nerds. I'm kidding about the last part. Now about not dropping that big wad of cash. This Gigabyte A16 I got for 800 Canadian dollars, which is like 580 US dollars. This was on a discount though from Canada Computers, for which I got, let me put that away, a pretty respectable CPU with 10 cores, the Intel 13th Gen i7 13620H that goes up to 4.9 GHz. I also get a humble RTX 4050, yes, the 4050 with just 6 GB of VRAM, and according to NVIDIA control panel, it goes up to about 80 watts. By the way, you can get up to an RTX 5070 in this, but for a budget build, I think the RTX 5050 would be a real nice sweet spot with 8 gigs of VRAM and upgraded DLSS, which is NVIDIA's upscaling technology. Moving forward, for this price, we get 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM and 512 gigs of Gen 4 SSD. Now I know 512 gigs seems pretty pedestrian, but you do get an extra SSD slot for easy expansion down the line. Just make sure you get the full-size 2280 SSD. I tried fitting in a 2242 size, which you get in the likes of a Legion Go, but that requires an adapter. You can also upgrade the RAM down the line as well, but consider this, my unit actually just came with a single 16 gig stick across 2 SODIMMs with 1 empty SODIMM slot, which can limit performance a bit without dual channel. So having 2 sticks of 8 GB each instead can have slight performance benefits, including better frame rates, better loading times. All that is okay. Some choices naturally had to be made to keep the price as low as possible. Overall, from the outside, I think decent quality. The lid, it feels pretty well built and metallic and solid. It does feel like it might be made from aluminum, but the bottom panel is naturally quite plasticky in order to get that branding in. The device weighs in around 2.2 kilos, and considering the plastics used and the lighter thermals, like with fewer heat pipes, I wish it weighed maybe around 1.8 kilos. On the inside as well, the keyboard deck kind of feels metallic, maybe some aluminum there as well, and it has pretty limited flex too. Also that Roman 16 engraving that I spoke about earlier, it's still subtle, it's got that black on black look, so light has to be shining at it, at an angle for it to be properly visible. For the screen, we get an IPS display with a 1200p resolution, and that goes up to a pretty nice 165Hz refresh rate. Screen brightness is a little bit low at around 300 nits, but it's still pretty workable even if you have an unreasonable amount of ceiling lights like I do. But credit is where credit is due. There's almost no backlight bleed along the edges, which goes to show a strong commitment to quality. Naturally, this can vary from unit to unit, but from what I'm seeing, this has got a pretty even application. Very uniform backlight. That is actually not a very common sight, especially with IPS panels. My more premium, way more premium and expensive Area 51, which also comes with an IPS display, had a pretty noticeable amount of backlight bleed. There is one downside for the screen. I noticed the response time is not that great. Basically, it's the speed of the pixels changing color, and it seems a little low here. As a result, you will see trails behind fast-moving objects, so not exactly great for games with a lot of fast-moving action. And talking about I/O, I like the port selection. It's got 3 USB-A ports, which is great for added peripherals. It also has an Ethernet jack and HDMI port. There is one downside though, the ports are just USB 3.2 Gen 1. Forget USB 4, they're not even USB 3.2 Gen 2. So that means a max transfer speed of 5 gigabits a second, which is fast, but only if we go like 15 years back in time. The keyboard for a budget laptop actually feels kinda nice. 1.7 millimeters of key travel. It has a firm feel, a nice, decent bit of actuation force. Sure, the key bottom out might feel not as satisfying as I felt on a Lenovo ThinkPad or Legion keyboards or the newer G16, but the typing accuracy feels pretty good. Writing out your autobiography on this, even if it is a little boring about how you never went to prom because of this laptop, might not feel all that bad typing it out on this. And just the backlight on the keyboard is fixed. It's got this light blue color that you just cannot change. Again, it looks decent, but I think plain white may have been good too. We don't get any brightness adjustments on this though. It's just press the function and spacebar key to turn it off or turn it on. And the brightness is pretty decent if you're in a well-lit room, but if you were in total darkness, it can be extremely distracting, I think. And the trackpad, it has this sort of targeting reticle graphic on it. I mean, it's not very obvious till you shine some light directly on it, but really kind of unnecessary. Not kind of, really unnecessary. I don't think there's anyone that uses a trackpad for aiming anything in any game. That being said, the trackpad again, like the keyboard, feels pretty decent. It might not feel as premium as the more expensive laptops, but it is far, far away from the usual revolting or flimsy experience that other budget laptops can usually be fitted with. This feels tight, short click travel distance, and pretty smooth too. I think it might just be a glass touchpad. Now here is where I was particularly wrong. That 4050 GPU, the RTX 4050, it actually packs a decent punch, even in 2025 or 2026. And that 1200p resolution screen is also great for this because of that limited VRAM. Seriously, maybe I've been reviewing too many higher tier models, but I expected like 2 frames a second for any demanding title. But hey, check out the results. Naturally, all the tests were run at native 1200p with medium to high settings. And yeah, most of these leveraged NVIDIA's upscaling DLSS witchcraft, but I still found pretty decent visual fidelity. A casual gamer should be able to easily enjoy even the latest games. Sure, it's not gonna be all that great for high-end competition esport titles, but you can still have a good time. Even the latest Battlefield 6 at medium settings were presenting well above 60 FPS. And so was the new Doom game. Assassin's Creed Shadows struggled to touch 50 frames a second even at medium settings, but for a story-dense game, that is plenty. I think you should be able to easily enjoy that story and gameplay even at 39 FPS, which I got with the high visual setting. Even ray tracing is feasible. Cyberpunk at a high preset with high ray tracing settings, 50 FPS. That is pretty good. I have to say though, with just 6 gigabytes of VRAM, I found myself operating very close to that threshold, and as a result, you can expect slight frame rate dips or stutters if you set the preset too high, since modern games have very large texture sizes and they just take huge bites of the VRAM. So keep that in mind. And can I also say this is way more performance and functionality compared to modern Windows based handhelds. The Legion Go Gen 2 here, this would cost you almost twice the amount for like half the performance. Like, think about it. By the way, I'll be putting out a review of the Legion Go 2 soon as well, so get subscribed for that. I mean, even the Xbox ROG Ally, which is slightly cheaper, will still cost you more and provide you way less performance. I was also using the laptop's performance preset throughout all of this testing, which you can change using the function F7 shortcut key. You can switch it to Eco to maximize battery life, which I did not get a chance to test, but even with a 76 watt hour battery, which is almost the same as what I get in my Legion Go 2, I think you should still get around 6 hours of medium use without like non-gaming medium use, which is pretty good for a device that comes with a dedicated GPU. And just a quick note, the software, the configuration utility that comes with this Gigabyte laptop, it's called GI-Mate, some GI something, G-Mate. I wish it was a bit more user-friendly, because this setting for me to change the performance mode, like the one with the function F7, I just couldn't find it in the software itself. It doesn't have a lot of settings as well. Although you can choose things like the battery charge capacity to help you conserve battery over the long period. You also get some privacy AI settings to choose from. You also use it to run any updates on the device. And then you have this scenario profile setting, and it's got balance mode, game mode, creator mode, and power saving mode. Power saving mode I get, but I just had very little control over how the actual power output of the device changes between balance mode and game mode and creator mode, so it was a little bit confusing. Anyway, now sure, these kind of specs and results can be found in other budget laptops too, but I think the Gigabyte did a particularly good job with thermals. Despite the chassis being relatively thinner at around 0.84 inches at the back and about 0.75 inches at the front, it dissipates heat pretty well. I know the 4050 is barely using a lot of power. From a Black Ops 6 log I saw, it was barely consuming an average of 50 watts, which is not a lot, but still, despite that, there is no heating issue at all. I never felt the keyboard deck feel even slightly warm. And even the fans are pretty quiet when the device is not under load. It's virtually silent, and even when it's under heavy loads, the fans sound whooshy, just whooshy. Unlike, the very tinny, whiny sound, like the coil whine of a fan. Great if you're into sleeping while listening to white noise. Anyway, to conclude, I have 2 lessons. Number 1, entry-level gaming laptops with entry-level GPUs today and entry-level CPUs are actually feasible. Premium laptops can cost you easily 3 to 4 times, especially in 2025 and 2026. And I promise you, your gaming experience does not get 3 to 4 times better. Not even close. Number 2, if you are considering a general use laptop but also want to play some games on it on the side during your downtime without being stuck in one place with a console, the Gigabyte A16 should most definitely be one of your top 3 choices. I would suggest one tiny thing, and I mentioned it earlier. If you're considering the A16 with the RTX 4050, I strongly advise to save a little bit more money and get that RTX 5050 instead with 8 gigabytes of VRAM and also with DLSS 4. Like, these two things together can make a big difference. It means your gameplay can be smoother and you can also play more recent titles, and this can really help remove stuttering or sudden frame drops, and you can also crank up the settings on the texture size as well. That'll be really helpful. So that is it for me. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed my content or found it useful, please do consider liking and subscribing. See you in the next one. I don't know, what do we do with this? Honestly, it's not even a big wad of cash. These are just $20 bills. It's like close to $1,000. I got it for selling my laptops.